Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Podcast, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Now, let's look at some of the stocks on the move today here in Europe. I'm Caroline Hepker with Stephen Carroll, and we're joined by Bloomberg's Sam Unstead this morning. Sam, good to see you. The owner of Zara, Inditex, is a really big mover this morning. What's the story there?
Yeah, a big mover and a big weight on the Stock 600 as well this morning. So it's quite an interesting report. So their sales actually did accelerate a little bit from the previous quarter. So initially, when this came out this morning, there was a sense of, this looks quite reasonable. But actually, what analysts have focused on and what investors appear to be focusing on is that the sales into the summer this year have actually been a bit weaker than the previous year. So the momentum does appear to have actually slowed down a little bit, even if it's got a little better from the first quarter of the year. So, yeah, Inditex, I think, down about 5%, ITX, SM in Spain. And a drag there, and also sort of underlines a question about whether they are actually outperforming as much as was previously thought. So they had kept a better control of their inventory than H&M, for example, had done. But now this sort of puts a little crack in that story.
Yeah, very interesting one to watch this morning. On the other side of the spectrum, Danish hearing aid firm Demant, a big gain on their shares. What's going on? Yeah,
so Demant, DC in Denmark, hit the highest since January. They've bought a company called Kind, or K-I-N-D, in Germany. Just increases their overall exposure to the German market, seen as quite a good strategic fit, most analysts have said. The interesting part about this, so hearing aids have actually been pretty much entirely left out of the tariff story. So this was a segment which, I think when this all began, when tariffs first sort of became in and when Donald Trump came in, there were a lot of fears that this industry would get caught up in that because it's a lot of different parts moving all over the world. Hasn't happened. And so the reaction to this is quite interesting this morning. It's a good reaction for the shares. Analysts say it's a good strategic fit, but there's an element in each of the analyst comments that, yes, this looks good for now, but we still don't totally know what's going to happen in the future when these tariffs go down. At the moment, there's no sign of it, but the way that markets are currently feeling, they're worried that something could emerge in the future.
Interesting. All those electronic goods that you wouldn't have thought might be affected by tariffs, Indeed. But they are. Tiny tech. In terms of other things that we're thinking about, UK Homebuilders reacting to government policies. It's sustainable. Yeah,
so there's been this kind of drip feed of stuff coming up to the UK spending review today. So big sort of announcements of infrastructure spending, nuclear spending over the course of this week. Last night, they said that they're going to spend £39 billion over the next 10 years or so on affordable housing. So that's quite a bit more than the previous plan. It also appears to be quite a bit more than was expected. At the moment, there's a lot of wrangling going on between departments. Who's going to get money, who's not? It looks like the housing department has done pretty well. They've got a bit more than maybe they had initially anticipated. Remember that the government as well over here has been pushing through a lot of planning reforms. So this is part of the whole picture for Labour. The big mover on this story this morning is Vistry, VTY, LN. Their shares are up about 9%, and that is because Vistry has a division which partners with local authorities and housing associations to build houses. So more money going into housing associations and more funding there from the government kind of underpins one of the main parts of Vistry's business.
Yeah, indeed, and the best performer on the Stock 600 at the moment. Sam Unstead, thank you very much for joining us.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.